Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the IMF meeting coming up and of course the conditionalities as far as IMF is concerned. They've also asked Pakistan to share a report on the possible tax collection from all sectors during the ongoing technical level talks between the two sides. What can we expect from the economy? Are we going to be looking at a stabilization as far as the dollar is concerned? Of course, we saw it going down, then a little bit, increase in the last 2-3 days. What kind of an overall economic platform, economic overall, an economic rise as far as tax is concerned, as far as our overall tax collection is concerned, as far as our overall remittances are concerned, as far as our overall how Pakistan is doing with regard to our economic conditionalities vis-a-vis the IMF, and in the before the next elections also, now that we have a date in the field, are we looking at more stabilization as far as the economy is concerned? A little bit about that, and a little later on we'll also be talking about Afghan repatriation of illegal Afghans and the effect of this move, and how is it going to affect the economy, how is it overall its effects on our relationship with Afghanistan. Of course, the recent spate increase in terrorism, also the incidents we saw that have resulted in death of even our security forces, injury of our security forces. A little bit about that later on. I have with me today Sultan Ali Haider, who is an expert on political economy. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, who is senior economist. Thank you so much for being with us. Later on, we'll be joined by AVM retired Ijaz Malik and Yasir, janjua, who's a security analyst. Sultan Sahab, before I go to Dr. Khaqan, what is your overall assessment of our economic landscape, so to speak, at this time, considering the fact where we are politically also? We have an election date in the field which is expected to go through, inshallah, and stabilization generally. Are we still going to be looking at an upward, downward trend? How are we looking at things at this time, in your opinion?
At this point in time, things look very positive. Okay. We spoke maybe 3 months back when we were getting this new IMF program, and now we feel that there's a lot of stability in terms of PKR to USD. You see a lot of stability, things improving. In terms of government meeting its budgetary targets in terms of tax collections. So, and that is what IMF in its kickoff meeting with the finance minister, they also praised that. So we do see this thing continuing. Now on the political horizon, as you just said, that there was one bit of uncertainty, what would be the exact election date. So now that is cast in stone. So now it is a very stable theme that we see onwards towards April. Why I say March and April? Because that is when this IMF program is going to conclude. And that is when they will negotiate with the new government what would be the new program going forward. So what we do see is that compared to 5-6 months ago, now we are economically we're in a stable phase.
Let me go to Dr. Khaqan. Dr. Khaqan, do you agree that we are now at a more stable place as far as economy is concerned? And also, what do you expect from this meeting, the IMF meeting that is happening at this time? How do you, is the review, is it part of the review? How do you look at that?
So Mahrukh, if you look at the economic behavior of the country past July, so we went into an IMF program and our reserves went up to about $8.7 billion. They had gone down to about 2.9. So the substantive build up in July. There onwards, what we've seen is that we have the IMF adjustments going on in the country, and then you have some administrative reforms that have been taken place. Put both of them together, so what you've seen is that the markets have had some confidence that Pakistan is looking a bit more certain on the macro. Pakistan's now started to look a bit more certain on the political side as well. On the macroeconomy, if you see, Pakistan's rupee has strengthened. Pakistan's inflation still on the higher side, but has initiated its trend from being 31 odd percent in September to somewhere near 27% in October. Now, the tax collection first 3 months surpassed what the target was of about 1977 billion rupees. The fiscal deficit's looking all right, though I think we have curtailed a lot of expenditures, especially the subsidy expenditure as well as the development expenditure. There are
Dr.
some
Khaqan, what
green
about?
shoots.
Ji.
There are some green shoots on the agriculture side. The Kharif crops are looking much better. The cotton, I was looking at the number, is 82% higher compared to the arrivals last year till 1st of October. That's about 6.8 million bales. Just to understand, last time we were near 5 million bales in total. So now we are thinking about 11 to 12 million bales. The corporate profitability has come out decent. Even in the first quarter, it's come out decent, considering that we have an induced slowdown where our monetary side, as at 22%, is a tight monetary policy that we are maintaining. The markets have responded well. You've seen KSE index surpass the 53,000 mark. I think it's after 6 years we've hit this high. Pakistan bond internationally are up. So they're no more trading at the kind of levels that we saw. So all in all, there is now hope that the IMF agreement that we reached in July is now going through its first review. So Mahrukh, if we complete the first review, which means that the 30th September indicative targets, the quantitative performance criteria, and the structural benchmarks. This is how the program is monitored by IMF, not only for Pakistan, but for everyone in the world. If these are all largely in the ballpark figure in September, and what are
Dr.
those
Khaqan,
figures?
let me come back to you. I'm going to, as you know, I'm not an economic expert, so I'm going to ask you the questions that I think that people who don't have an economic know-how would be able to understand. Let me come back to you. Sultan Sahab, as far as economy is concerned, when you talk about political economy, according to what Dr. Khaqan is saying, and also you were saying earlier on, why we are in a phase of before the elections. Yep. At this time. We have a caretaker government in place, but by all accounts it seems that there is stability at this time. Yeah. There is also there seems to be things seem to be going in the right direction. In this kind of temporary phase, why are we looking at such a robust reaction, in your opinion, to economy going in the right direction, so to speak? When we are, is there, what kind of certainty is it that's propelling this upward surge or this stability, in your opinion?
Okay, so it's a lot about when you especially talk about foreign entities or the foreign governments, when they are dealing with Pakistan, right? They want to know what is going on in Pakistan, and when they're entering into contracts, they want to see if Pakistan will be able to pay back, or Pakistani entities will be able to pay back in the coming years. So they have to see what kind of government is taking place, and is there stability in the government, right? So in the recent past, there was this political uncertainty, as we are aware, that when if the previous political government, will it announce early elections or will it complete its term? If it completes its term, when the election would take place. So now that kind of stability has returned. As we can see, the way IMF has structured the program, it's very nicely structured. It says that, okay, they will have I think the third tranche will be released after their board meeting on 1st of March. And after that, they will release, and then the next negotiation will be with the new government for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So that is the kind of stability which is required on the political side. Otherwise, if you see in terms of who they are dealing with, they are very happy to deal with the interim government, because Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, she is a veteran of ADB and such institutions. So in terms of talking to an expert rather than a politician, so it's much more conducive. So you're talking a professional to a professional.
Okay. Let me go to Dr. Khaqan with this. Dr. Khaqan, do you agree? You think that there's generally perhaps more confidence in the team that is negotiating at this time with IMF in overall, you know, even though this is a caretaker setup, is it that you think it's also internally also at this time, you know, if we talk about businesses, if we talk about things within the country, there is, you know, overall confidence in where we are headed on the economic front?
So, extended fund facility, a full program of the IMF, which is a 3-year facility that will only be negotiated with a long-term government in sometime after March, or you know, if the country even decides to go that way. So, you know, that decision still has to be taken. The IMF gave us this 9-month standby arrangement, knowing fully well that the first review would be done with the caretaker setups. If the February elections happen, the second review actually may be with the new government that comes in. So, you know, one should think about it as a time where IMF is supporting Pakistan to fulfill the external needs, keep the IMF umbrella there. The targets were actually agreed with the political setup. So the program was negotiated even when the caretakers were not there. So I would just characterize that the caretaker setup is to just, you know, ensure that they stay within the targets that were agreed. And most of that work is, of course, done by the bureaucracy. But the fiscal side is looking okay. The external side is not looking as comfortable as it should. Our reserves are down, but let's hope that we get this $720 million so that our reserves start to build up again. So IMF would be, you know, thinking about how to help us there. On the energy side, you know, because we've made some strides in trying to get some more monies that are lost in terms of inefficiencies. So hopefully we are in the ballpark there. On the monetary side, we've kept a 22% rate. We've kept monetary tightening. The demand has been curtailed. So I think that's the ballpark. But you will see some new adjustments even when the present setup was to negotiate the first review of the IMF. That's also very normal. Whenever the review is done, the past performance is judged, adjustments are made.
Dr. Khaqan, when you say adjustments, do you mean that we can expect perhaps price increases, or, you know, as far as utilities are concerned, as far as, you know, gas is concerned, as far as petrol is concerned? Are we looking at those kind of adjustments also?
So alhamdulillah, on the energy side, we've almost done everything. We did the electricity first, then we passed on petroleum, both in terms of moving ahead and then moving back when the international prices decreased. We've done the gas pricing as well. So on the energy side, most of the price pass-throughs are there. On the taxation side, there may be something that we may have to do, depending on how the 9,400 billion rupee target of the FBR goes through, how the provincial targets of 600 billion, you know, surplus that we have to get from them goes through. So let's see what happens on those sides. So maybe some taxation adjustments would be there, but they should again fall on the more affluent classes, or on the classes that are not there in the tax net, like there is discussion on the retail side. So maybe you know, more is there. The more worrying sign would always be how we fulfill the external side and build our reserves to $9-10 billion. That is, Mahrukh, the figure that we've agreed with the fund for 30th of June, that we'll, you know, shore up our reserves. And then you will see more macro stability, hopefully some taming of the inflation as we move along, and some growth spurts also, considering that the agriculture picks up. I think that's the overall play in the economy right now.
Okay, let me go to Sultan Sahib. Sultan Sahib, what about dollar? We see it going down. There's a trend, and then, you know, suddenly we've also seen it might be a minor increase. But we also, what kind of a trend do you expect now with this? Was it because of the 9th review pending? Was it because of this meeting pending? You know, what is behind it in your opinion?
Okay, first of all, we need to understand why the spike went up and why it crossed 300. So it's also linked to IMF, because what IMF, one of the conditions was that the government should not be managing the exchange rate, right? So the difference between the open market rate and the interbank rate should not be more than 1%. And we saw that previously during the political government's phase, the difference would be a lot more. So at the end of the last government's era, what happened was that the difference was reduced, so they tried to catch up. When they started to catch up, in the open market, speculation started to happen.
Okay.
So so the government let go of the interbank rate. So open market rate kept on jumping, and the interbank kept on doing the catch up. So those speculators got in, and that's how the open market rate crossed 310, 315, and it went way above that. Then the government came in and took strict action. We know throughout September, right? Yes. So those decisive actions, they corrected that. So now we are in a very good space where the IMF condition is also met. So it is not that the government is managing the exchange rate artificially.
So it's natural.
So it is natural. The speculators, or you see a lot of money laundering was happening, currency smuggling was happening, all of those things were clamped.
That's been clamped upon.
So that has been clamped. Now it goes to, I think economists can explain that better in terms of real effective exchange rate. So there was a consensus that it should be below 250 rupees. Okay. So directionally it has been moving in that direction. And then again, some of the bigger players, again the speculators, since they speculate, now the market will be moving in that direction. So they were quickly offloading their dollar positions. Okay. That is why it came down slowly. So now I haven't heard of any specific news causing this 2, 3, 4 rupee jump. So I think it's just market correction. Okay. But usual consensus from what I hear from business people in the market is that the downward trend would continue. Yeah.
Let me ask Dr. Khaqan the same question. Dr. Khaqan, you think this downward trend as far as the dollar is concerned will also, in your opinion, continue?
So Mahrukh, we did a reform in Pakistan in 2019. We said that the market-based exchange rate would determine the movement of the currency. The state bank would intervene only in case of big aberrations or something unusual was to happen. So that's how the exchange rate now behaves. The exchange rate, which had gone to beyond 300, was largely because of dollarization that had started to occur. There was a market, an illegal market that had occurred, a third market. So as soon as we kind of took administrative measures there, the flow became more through the interbank and through the open market. The open market was also giving dollars to the interbank market. So the dollar flow improved. The dollar strengthened 10 to 12% in the interbank market. So the exporters thought that this was a good time to get their dollars converted into rupee. The flow improved further. The importers thought that maybe it is a time to wait and let the rupee settle at a strengthened position to buy dollars. So there was less demand, more supply. And that's why you saw this thing. Now, I think the rupee is more into an equilibrium kind of a position where the demand and supply on a daily basis is determining the movement. Please remember that there are payments we have withheld in terms of the royalties, the dividends of the companies, royalties and dividends to a large extent have now gotten to start being paid. And as you go on and pay these, so there is more demand on the dollar side. I think a lot depends on how the IMF would come through. If the IMF goes smoothly, other monies flow, there is good supply. The rupee should, as in a market-based exchange rate, get strengthened with the supply position, and let's hope. But to an extent where there is equilibrium, where our exports are not disturbed, and we yet maintain a position where our balance of payments is comfortably handled and our external flows keep happening.
We've had this conversation. I mean, I have very little time left for this segment, but overall, we've had this conversation before about how long-term reforms are still going to be needed for there to be a lasting solution on the economic front. Are we still going to have to swiftly move towards that?
Mahrukh, I'm really glad that you've asked this question. By no stretch of imagination, anyone listening to us should think that we've, really solved the deeper fundamental structural issues of Pakistan. The energy sector still needs to be divested, deregulated, lots of other actions on the subsidy side. Our budget framework needs to be improved. Our IPR tax to GDP ratio, our deregulation of the economy, our competitiveness. So, Mahrukh, you're absolutely right. The next 5 years, and today, Mahrukh, I don't know if you find time, but I say this to the viewers. I've written an article in the one of the leading newspapers, and the title of that article is, if I was to look back 5 years from standing in 2019, how would the economy look to me? There is a plethora of reform that the country has to see through. So, I talk about what is possible within an electoral cycle. And all these areas that I've just mentioned to you, PIA is still in difficulty. We are still trying to keep it afloat. So our fundamental issues need the kind of deeper thinking, deeper research, deeper reform, and get the economy back from macro stabilization to a growth which is more productivity driven growth, which is based on the agriculture doing better in terms of yields. And it's not a easy money or a fiscal largesse driven growth. That's the kind of work. I'm really glad that we've ended our conversation today on this aspect so that everyone's clear that that's the kind of responsibility a new incoming government would have. The establishment has set some ground with the administrative reform of, curbing smuggling, hoarding, Afghan transit trade, currency market movement, but the much deeper work on the domestic investment, on the foreign investment through SIFC is still ahead of us. And just think that if we had really done all this work in the past decade or 2 decades, the country would look so much different. But the next 5 years, hopefully, are going to look like that, and we should be able to push this kind of work through. As I don't think the country has any more choice left but to do the hard work to get the country going.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for joining us today. Sultan Ali Haider Saab, thank you for being with us today. Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, thank you for joining us today on this very important topic. We're going to be taking a short break, after which we'll come back and talk about, of course, the security situation at this time, the attack on Pakistan's Air Force station, and also illegal Afghan immigrants that we've seen, overall the effect on the economy and what we can expect from the situation. Let me come back to you after a short break. Welcome back. We have with us AVM retired Ijaz Malik. Ijaz Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Mahrukh, how are you?
I'm well. I hope you're well too. Ijaz Saab, there is, we're talking about the security situation overall. We've had, recently there has been an attack on Pakistan's Air Force also. There have been threats also overall. Of course, we are also looking at the deportation of illegal Afghans at this time. How are you overall looking at the situation, and what do you think is the cause of, these unfortunate events at this time?
Thank you very much for asking a very detailed question. Let me begin with saying that this was an attempted attack which, alhamdulillah, our forces there, including the officers and our airmen who were deployed on security duties, they were very vigilant, and their response was very effective and timely. So that is how we managed to defend our very valuable assets at one of these training bases. Secondly, we have seen recently there has been a surge in terrorist attack. The other day we had an attack in Balochistan, where 14 of our soldiers were martyred. And then there is a complete history of sporadic attacks here and there, particularly in the areas which are directly connected to the CPEC in Balochistan. And what message are they trying to give? First of all, uh, that Balochistan is not stable. In Pakistan, law enforcement agencies and military installations who are supposed to be well equipped, well trained, and combat ready, even they are not able to defend themselves. Because after 2014, we had handled this menace of terrorism very well. Alhamdulillah, most of their hideouts were wiped out, and we had cleared all areas in the erstwhile Fatah or adjoining areas with the borders. But then some of them fled to Afghanistan, and some obviously morphed into, you can say, sleeper cells. And now, with the current situation in Afghanistan, uh, where the Kabul regime has done nothing to, help Pakistan against TTP, now there is a surge between these elements. And not to, forget that this situation directly uh, suits all enemies of Pakistan, the enemies of CPEC, the enemies of stability in the region, and of course our arch enemy, India.
But as far as the response is concerned, of course, we've seen the response of our security personnel. There have been, those affected, of course, but overall, we have not, there is. It was timely, it was quick, it was effective. There's no denying that. But to what you attribute, this increase, is it in any way linked? I'm not saying, but there have been threats also. Is there in any way link between this illegal deportation drive that is being carried out at this time across the border?
Well, this possibility cannot be overruled. If you just, put two and two together, right now the illegal, expats, mostly obviously who belong to Afghanistan, they are being, evicted out of Pakistan.
This
So
is, of course, and this is
psychologically,
deportation of those illegal Afghans, of course. That's what I'm saying. Gee.
psychologically now their anti-Pakistan sentiment is at a high, at a height. So this is the best time to utilize any one of them against any activity inside Pakistan. So there could be linkages. I mean, obviously the inquiries and intelligence reports later on would reveal
We don't know
that
for sure at this time. And I
yeah.
don't want to, perpetuate any conspiracy theories, overall as far at this time. But as far as our, across the border, we also have an enemy in, as far as India is concerned. There's also, there is from time to time, something or the other happening, some mischief from there, as I'm sure you agree. That, so we can't really discount anything at this time. Am I right?
Exactly. Unfortunately, Pakistan is a victim of terrorism, not from one enemy, which is India. There are so many other regional and international players who do not want to see Pakistan progressing, Pakistan being stable, economically viable. So they keep harboring such activities which can continue to engage our armed forces, our law enforcement, and continue to affect our economic and socio-economic growth.
Ijaz, this deportation of illegal Afghans at this time, is it, there have been, there's a lot of, a controversy, unfortunately, that has been created again by, enemies also, the way that things are looking at. But did Pakistan have any choice?
Actually, if we see, this is nothing unusual that Pakistan has done. All over the world, no country, no sovereign state allow any, unregistered immigrant into their land, be it America or any country in the world. While we respect and we have been, supporting by all possible means the Afghan refugees, over 3 million Afghan refugees who are registered, only a percentage of them are in the camps, while others, they enjoy almost equal status like you and me in this country. But these people who have been, now forced to uh, uh, vacate Pakistan, these were the people who are not registered here, or they were registered temporarily and their registration expired way back in June this year, and it was not renewed, and they were given warnings to to repatriate. So we have adhered to all international norms, and we have not been, we haven't violated any international laws or norms, and even I would say sufficient facilitation has been done for these people to repatriate.
Ijaz sir, our relationship with the Afghan government at this time, as far as lending aid is concerned, as far as humanitarian assistance is concerned, providing as much as possible, trying to facilitate them, trying to make sure, from the very, if we look back at when the US chose to leave Afghanistan, Pakistan has been very cognizant and conscious of the pain of our Afghan brethren. Would you agree with that? As far as their the people there, the civilians there, and the fact that they
We,
will need
Pakistan,
humanitarian
uh,
assistance,
uh,
aid
uh,
also. Ji.
Afghan government, the present regime in Kabul has not been recognized by any country. But despite that, Pakistan has not only supported, the inflow of aid, medical aid, food, ration, and there have been people who have been coming here for treatment in our hospitals. We have, despite our own economic meltdown in recent years, Pakistan has been supportive, even at the cost of, annoying certain, friends. Because after the hasty withdrawal of America, Pakistan did not have that kind of relationship with America, and they were not
Ji. Ji, Ijaz sahab. Ji, Ijaz sahab, can you hear me? Ijaz sahab? Ji, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Ji, ji.
Yeah,
Ji,
I
so
can hear
I'm
you.
saying,
Please go ahead.
ji,
So
as
I
far
was
as,
saying that Pakistan has done.
ji, please continue.
Pakistan has done, Mahrukh, and Pakistan would continue to do anything on humanitarian grounds for our Afghan brethren. But obviously, we have to play within the international norms and looking after our own national and economic interest.
Let me go to Yasir Saab. I'll come back to you. We have Yasir Janjua, who's a senior security analyst also. Ji, Yasir Saab, we're talking about the recent attacks also, and of course, which we have managed, our security personnel have managed to foil if we talk about the attack on the Air Force base. But we saw what happened with 14 soldiers being martyred also. Overall, as far as the security, we've seen these incidents. To what do you attribute this sudden spike?
Thank you very much, Mahrukh, for inviting me to the show. You can see the timing of these two attacks. It is closely associated or closely linked in timeline to the repatriation of Afghans. Obviously, those Afghans who are illegal or undocumented Afghans, they are not happy to be sent back. And they have the sympathizers, and they have among their ranks people that we don't want here, and the ones that we say are terrorists or involved in illegal activities. So I can conveniently say that this is attributable to the departure or the order by the government of Pakistan to send their Afghans back. However, we should have the armed forces, the law enforcement, And this is not, these unfortunately, may Allah keep us safe, but this is not going to be the last one. So we must raise our guard because this is going to happen again. So we should have been careful, our defenses should have been careful, not allow something like anything like that to happen. Especially when we have an incident on Kamra base and the naval base in Sahi and the GHQ attack and the number of institutions that have been under attack in the past years. So this could have been avoided. Good thing is they were only able to destroy or damage those dysfunctional aircraft or non-operational aircraft. Nevertheless, that does not mean that there was not a security lapse. They were able to climb up the wall using a ladder. So I, being a practitioner of risk management and security, I'm surprised. Wow, what were the cameras doing?
Yes, do you think, you know, we've also, again, I want to say this at the outset that I don't want to perpetuate any conspiracy theories, but there have been threats. There have been, you know, that when we are, you know, undergoing this illegal deportation of illegal Afghan refugees.
Right. So, I mean, as I said, there is a connection between that event and these all happenings or incidents. I have no doubt. Although there is also, as always, these are funded. These are funded by people from on the eastern side of the border. They have their connections there as well. I'm not doing a blame game, but I have been very forthright in saying that there has been a lapse on our side, especially when in a situation, especially in Gawada, where there was an incident in July where the 12 soldiers were martyred. Our guard should have been higher. In case of airways attack, this is unpardonable, and some heads should roll for a lapse like this. It's absolutely not acceptable for terror. No matter what, they have all been eliminated or killed afterwards. But I have been on 2 programs on international TV channels today. People are saying outside Pakistan that Pakistani forces are not prepared. We are prepared to see these incidents, sporadic incidents, will continue to happen. But I think we could have done much more, and we should have done much more.
Right, fair enough. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Yasir, janjua, thank you for your time. Ijaz Malik Saab, thank you for being with us today. Overall, of course, we are fully cognizant, our security forces are fully cognizant of as far as all our bases are concerned and of ensuring security overall. Like Yasir Saab said, they're on high alert and they're to ensure that all is safe as far as Pakistan is concerned. Of course, from time to time, there are, you know, nefarious designs which come from across the border. We don't know at this time who is responsible for these attacks. I want to say this at the outset, and conspiracy theories should be avoided. Of course, after investigation, we will know more. But at this time, we all know that we are fully secure of anything that may happen, and our forces are very able to take care of all of us. Thank you so much for joining us today on Person.